Good day, everyone. Today, we'll be exploring the core moral principles that play a crucial role in ethical decision-making. This presentation will guide us through the fundamental values that influence how we make choices, especially in complex situations. I'm excited to dive into these ideas with you and uncover how they can shape our behavior and judgments. Let's get started. When we talk about ethical decision-making, we're looking at how individuals evaluate their actions based on moral norms and principles. It's not just about the choices themselves, but also about understanding the consequences that follow and recognizing the duties and rights that come into play. At the heart of this process are core principles that act as a guide, helping us navigate complex situations and make moral choices that align with our values. This balance between outcomes and ethical duties ensures that decisions are both responsible and just. Here we have the core idea centered around the value of life, which is fundamental in many fields. First, medical ethics play a crucial role. It guides healthcare professionals to make decisions that prioritize patient survival and the best possible health outcomes. Next, public safety is about developing policies that protect individuals and prevent harm, ensuring communities stay secure and resilient. Lastly, welfare focuses on supporting measures that enhance quality of life and overall well-being, helping people live healthier, happier lives. Each of these points is symbolized here by icons: a cross for medical ethics, a shield for public safety, and a hand for welfare, highlighting their interconnected importance in valuing human life. Here we focus on the principle of goodness, also known as benevolence, which is all about promoting well-being and kindness. First, charitable acts like donating resources to those in need demonstrate altruism and help support entire communities. Next, caregiving plays a crucial role by providing care and support, which alleviates suffering and encourages compassion in everyday life. Lastly, harm-reducing policies are essential. They work to minimize risks and protect vulnerable populations, showing a commitment to beneficence on a broader scale. Together, these elements highlight how actively doing good can make a meaningful difference. Here we focus on the core idea of justice, beginning with a simple definition. Justice means fairness, equality, and ensuring that everyone receives what they deserve. This foundational concept sets the stage for understanding the two main aspects of justice outlined here. First, procedural justice refers to the fairness of the processes that lead to decisions. It's about making sure these processes are transparent, consistent, and respectful of individual rights, so everyone is treated fairly when decisions are made. Second, distributive justice addresses how benefits and burdens are shared among people. It guides us in allocating resources and responsibilities fairly, ensuring no one is unduly advantaged or disadvantaged. Together, these elements highlight why justice is essential for a balanced and equitable society. The image of the vintage typewriter with social equity reinforces the timeless importance of these principles in promoting fairness. When we talk about honesty, it's important to look at it from two perspectives. First, personal honesty. This means being truthful and transparent in our day-to-day interactions. For example, admitting when we've made a mistake openly is a powerful way to build trust with others. On the other hand, institutional honesty involves organizations maintaining transparency through accurate reporting and open communication. This commitment helps uphold their integrity and fosters trust on a larger scale. The image of the handshake here perfectly symbolizes this agreement and partnership grounded in honesty, reinforcing how essential this principle is, both personally and institutionally. Here we're diving into the principle of individual freedom, which is fundamental to autonomy. First, let's talk about consent. This means that people have the right to make decisions for themselves, whether it's agreeing to something or refusing. But importantly, their choices should be made with full information. It's about respecting personal choice. Next, we have expression. This covers the freedom to openly share thoughts and opinions without facing unnecessary restrictions. It's essential for a healthy, functioning society where ideas can be exchanged freely. Lastly, we come to risk-taking. Sometimes, individuals choose to take actions that involve personal risk, and this too is part of their autonomy. It's about recognizing that freedom includes the possibility of making risky decisions if one so chooses. Together, these elements, consent, expression, and risk-taking, shape the core of what it means to have individual freedom. Here we have a bar chart illustrating how different moral principles vary in influence depending on the context. Specifically, healthcare versus public policy. Looking first at the value of life, it carries a very high influence in healthcare, scoring a 9, but much less so in public policy, where it's only a 3. Goodness also ranks high in healthcare with a 9, but moderately in public policy at 6. Justice, on the other hand, is much more influential in public policy, scoring 9, while it's somewhat less prominent in healthcare with a 6. Honesty holds steady across both contexts at 6, reflecting its consistent importance. Lastly, freedom is highly valued in public policy with a 9, but it takes a backseat in healthcare at just 3. This chart clearly shows how the emphasis on different moral principles shifts depending on the setting, highlighting the importance of context in ethical decision-making. Here we see a visualization of the trade-offs that arise in common ethical dilemmas. The chart highlights how different moral principles, such as life, freedom, justice, honesty, and goodness, are emphasized differently depending on the situation. For example, during a pandemic restriction, protecting life is given the highest priority, followed closely by justice, while honesty plays a minimal role. On the other hand, whistleblowing emphasizes honesty and justice more heavily, with less focus on freedom and goodness. This illustrates that ethical decisions often involve balancing competing values, where prioritizing one principle may mean compromising another. Understanding these conflicts helps us navigate moral complexity with a more nuanced perspective. In this case study, we see how the 5 core ethical principles come into play when making a real-life decision. Each principle is carefully considered to either support or oppose possible actions, helping us weigh the options thoroughly. By analyzing these perspectives, we arrive at a balanced and well-reasoned recommendation. This approach ensures that our decisions remain grounded in strong ethical foundations, guiding us to act responsibly even in complex situations. The image here of a group working together highlights the collaborative effort needed to apply these principles effectively. Here we see how ethical decision-makers balance core principles during public health emergencies, where tough choices are often necessary. The pie chart illustrates the typical weighting given to each principle. Notice that the value of life carries the most weight at 35%, reflecting its critical importance in protecting and saving lives. Goodness comes next at 20%, emphasizing actions that promote well-being. Justice, honesty, and individual freedom each hold equal weight at 15%, indicating that fairness, transparency, and respect for personal rights are all vital considerations. The challenge lies in weighing these sometimes competing principles carefully to reach decisions that are both reasonable and ethically sound. This balance ensures that decisions aren't driven by one factor alone, but by a thoughtful integration of multiple moral priorities. To wrap up, let's focus on 3 key roles that moral principles play in ethics. First, they serve to guide us. Just like a compass, these principles provide clear criteria to help us evaluate situations and make sound ethical choices. Next, moral principles help us balance. When we face conflicts between different ethical concerns, principles allow us to thoughtfully manage trade-offs and find a fair resolution. Finally, they encourage us to justify our decisions. Transparency and clear reasoning strengthen our ethical judgments, making them more accountable and understandable. Together, these roles highlight how essential moral principles are in navigating complex ethical challenges.